This girl has big muscles, and she's now teaching everyone else how to get big muscles. But the police got involved. What happened? Today we're going to talk about why Hattie Boyd has been getting in trouble with her big muscle and breaking tons of headlines. If you're into cocaine and steroids and MDMA, this might be a good video for you to watch. Or if you're just interested in people who might be lying about their status as an athlete, it also might be worth your time. So let's just briefly start off with some blood work, because I think that has a really important place here, because we'll get into the history of this first. But why do I have Hattie blood work in front of us? Well, I just wanted to show you guys a little bit of what she has as far as health issues or concerns. Don't really need to know what these markers mean, just need to know that they're in range. She has a free T4 that's in range, she has a free T3 that's in range, and she has a TSH that's in range, which is thyroid stimulating hormone. She has a prolactin that's completely normal. She has an FSH and LH plus an oestradiol and progesterone that are all normal. She has a testosterone level that is completely normal, a sex hormone binding globulin level that's quite healthy, and has a clean bill of health from her doctor. So now let's discuss what's going on here. You may have heard about Hattie and what is going on in her world right now. Now, to give you some background, Hattie Boyd is a natural athlete, or proposed as a natural athlete. She has won world championships in the natural federations for lots of women's categories. She's currently a coach and sells an education program as well right now. She also has a company called Gut Performance, which seems to be pretty reputable but not quite catched on yet, but still something that's in the space. She's sponsored by Get Raw Nutrition and Revive MD, and has her own coaching program called the Flex Method, where she has many assistant coaches under her umbrella, and a whopping 584,000 followers. No small feat, to say the least. But suddenly this recent article has come out, along with a plethora of others, that are claiming she had some drugs within her home. Here's a pretty shocking headline that has Hattie Boydle's name in it. Fitness influencer couple are allegedly busted with steroids and party drugs in Gold Coast home. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Gold Coast is in Australia. It is an Australian location where, to be honest, the laws and stipulations around anabolic steroids and other pharmaceutical agents such as party drugs are not super favorable. In fact, you can get a lot worse punishment there, and the police crack down on it much more significantly than they do in the US or quite literally anywhere else in the world. And the article goes on to read that the police allegedly found close to 20 different types of drugs in the Gold Coast home of Hattie Boydle, who is 35 years old and lives with her boyfriend Kolton George Moore, who's 27-year-old. And this happened in December 22nd of 2023. Now, the alleged finds include several steroids, such as oxandrolone, interesting one, trenbolone, testosterone, nandrolone, stanozolol, and growth hormone, as well as a little bit of cocaine and MDMA. Not a big deal, but just a little bit. The couple is now facing 13 accounts of possessing dangerous drugs and a count of supplying dangerous drugs, unauthorized possession of medicines, and failing to dispose of needles and syringes. So what is this gonna tell us? Well, obviously, I don't think her boyfriend is holding back any secrets. He is a user of anabolic androgenic steroids, which is exactly what we're talking about here. But there's more to this story as well. You see, Miss Boydle has actually had several possession charges in the past dealing with cocaine and other various drugs. And both of them have sold these drugs to their partners or people around them, being their friends. The funny thing is that this couple prides themselves on a holistic style of coaching, all natural, focusing on gut health, trying to enhance one's physique without any actual enhancement. And she runs a very successful personal training business because of this. People want to look like her, and inevitably they're going to hire her or her team to get to look like her. She also sells products under the premise that she herself is natural and using these products to look the way she is. In fact, on her website cleanhealth.edu, which is an education-based website that she has created, she has a course called Master Female Transformations, with a subtext saying Master Female Fat Loss and Strength with Hattie Boydle and Sebastian Oreb. It's $800 for 4 months of education, quite a pricey buy, and she apparently gives you all of the secrets that she has been using and how she overcame her eating disorder. And on Instagram, she has collected nearly every professional that she has worked with to make claims against what has been charged against her. For instance, having a guy named Tony Bataji coming onto her Instagram, or at least featuring her on his Instagram, talking about how he is a absolute professional in all this realm, even though he's never used or touched or learned anything about performance enhancing drugs, and says that he has never seen any indication of her using any performance enhancing drugs. Is this a valid statement, or is his resources credible? The second thing we have is a coach that she had previously named Flex Coach Dean. This was her coach for apparently 60 weeks during 2021 to 2022, where she competed and had 0 prescriptions of PEDs and not a single use of PEDs, or at least so called within his protocol. He didn't talk about what she might have done on the side. It was just relative within a protocol, and obviously these are screenshots of communications they've had with each other and also the program itself. And sure enough, there is no recommendations or mentions of any kind of performance enhancing drug. But is this a credible resource to vouch for her? Or is the blood work that I showed, which she provided to prove her natural status, an efficacious way to prove that she is natural and never has used anything? Well, unfortunately, no. And this is the difficult part about laboratory testing, with especially athletes and especially female athletes using any form of performance enhancing drug. Because you see, you can't detect things that are non-hormonal, for instance, clenbuterol, in a simple blood panel that's testing normal health markers. It's not going to be relevant or show. And you also can't test for Anavar's presence, even though you might have stopped it 4 weeks ago prior to the blood test. Even if you were to get tested by WADA, there still could be some incongruencies with that testing and invalid data that has just been sort of indoctrinated for many years, because there really isn't a better way to test a series of athletes outside of randomized testing every series of weeks to create an awareness or a biological passport of that individual to determine what their natural status is and their hormonal fluctuations in standard as opposed to what's abnormal than that. Let me explain the biological passport. Essentially what we're looking at is a very in-depth analysis of someone's lab work and urine to detect any metabolites of drugs, prodrugs, or anything in the WADA banned list. Now, let's say that this company administers these tests randomly throughout the year, but also very frequently. Let me just say that hypothetically, they tested this said athlete 12 times a year, once every month. They have a general idea of what that athlete's blood work is going to look like consistently for those 12 months. Those 12 lab works should have very consistent laboratory levels of testosterone, estrogen, estriol, estradiol, and it should have plenty of congruencies within LH, FSH, all of the hormones and prerequisite hormones to creating your pathways toward agenesis and effectively stimulating sex hormone production. But let's just say that 1 out of those 11 tests are abnormal. Well, they would base your biological passport off of the 11 tests that you had that were very consistent, and then the 12th would be sort of a red flag as to what was going on around that incident. Then it would look more deeply into certain things that would be needed to prove your status as not using any performance enhancing compounds. And even then, if you were to test that athlete right there on the spot with that abnormal reading, you wouldn't be able to see measurements of growth hormone usage. You wouldn't be able to interpret any usage of insulin, any usage of anything that would be relevant for application in performance enhancing contexts. Yes, hormonally speaking, you could detect testosterone if it was out of range, hypothetically, and the T to E ratio was off, but if it wasn't off, then you couldn't tell at all. You could also test other metabolites from other anabolic drugs to determine whether the metabolism of those has been happening for the past series of months. But if you're a wise athlete or have a wise coach, it's really easy to get around these tests, even in a matter of 3 to 4 weeks. Now, this is something that gets bypassed a lot by a lot of professional fighters, a lot of professional football players. I mean, a lot of people pass this stuff, and it takes years for them to get caught up in anything. And this is with regular randomized testing. Now, is Hattie under that much scrutiny? Is she being tested that regularly? Is the law going after her to have her do these drug tests that are so again, scrutinous? No, she's providing her own lab work in a perfect and ideal situation. She's getting testimonials from coaches that she's worked with who probably don't want to ruin their reputation either. And she's trying to hold the standard standard of business that she operates, because the idea is that she uses her products and the practices that she is conducting in her coaching program as a way to build her physique and have built the physique that she has had. She's claiming that everything that she provides people is the exact things that she has done to get the way she is, and in fact, if you do it, you will absolutely get her physique as well. And this is where this is a morally awful statement, because I'm going to be quite frank here, there is no way in any world that Hattie is natural. A female does not look like this in your wildest dreams. If you go to any pro level natural show and compare her to any other female there, she would win 10 times out of 10. Her shoulders are juiced up, her jawline's pretty thick, she's grainy, veiny, and all messed up in like a jacked reference, not like a she's actually physically messed up. And to add to this, if your boyfriend is using Trenbolone and all the other assortments, you're probably gonna dig into that jar sooner or later. Listen, I'm not saying she's using a copious amount of anabolic steroids. To be honest, what I believe she's probably doing is using some form of clenbuterol, albuterol, maybe a little bit of thyroid hormone, and possibly some growth hormone with a dose of Anavar here or there every once in a while across the time of a year, but nothing ridiculous or outrageous, but certainly nothing that is quote unquote natural or physically obtainable from the natural standards of humans. Meaning you could not look like her if you tried your damnedest for a very, very long time without any drug assistance. But the only way you could eventually look like her is doing this for so long under the influence of drugs, and you would hypothetically get to that end goal. But what she is selling, and the problem that I have with Hattie, is it's basically bullshit. You have a program that is built around a health and wellness approach that is holistic in nature, talking about gut health and stress balance and mediation of goals and all these crazy sort of peripheral topics in the fitness journey, which granted are important to talk about. They're not nothing, but you talk about them as if they are the things that leveled you up and put you into the new echelons of physical standing. However, what's really happening is you have a stash of drugs and party drugs in your basement that you're booling off of 24/7 to look the way you do. And a few strung along blood tests plus some coaches who you worked with in the past who likely you paid a large lump sum of money to are saying otherwise. That doesn't necessarily do it for me, and if Hattie would like to maybe respond to this video, I'd happily pay for her to go get a real blood test and see what's going on, to check all metabolites, which is very expensive, mind you. It's not cheap. It's like a over $3,000 test, but hey, I'd do it and we'd see the real deal. But so far, she has not posted anything of that nature. She has not posted any more lab work, and she only continues to post testimonials and reply to people's certain videos that they make on her. So I'm curious, what do you guys think? Do you think Hattie Boydle is the winner here? She is natural. This is just a misinterpretation by everyone, or do you think that, simply put, she's just been lying her whole career and has not been natural for this entire time and has made tons and tons of money? And I assure you, it's likely more than millions on people buying her programs based on the premise that they might look like her. I don't know. And to be honest with you, I am a coach. I have a coaching business. I have assistant coaches. I have a company that's very effective at getting people from point A to point B. But I also talk about very often how I am using drugs, and I talk about it very clearly, what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what it's getting me, and how most people won't be able to achieve what they see on the internet. And I'm very clear and concise with that. The problem that I'm experiencing here is that this isn't a concise picture, nor is it a truthism. It's more of a falsism and selling a dream that isn't necessarily true to people. But let me know what you guys think. Heads up, comments are getting disabled on my videos because of YouTube's new current TOS has stated essentially if there is inappropriate comments based on any sort of steroidal use or drug use in the comment section, they will just flat out completely disable the comments on the video itself. This is happening on the majority of my videos, and likely it is on, well, it isn't likely, it is happening on Vigorous Steve's channel, Paul's channel at Anabolic Bodybuilding, and basically any other bodybuilding channel you watch, Chase Irons, you name it. So just as a heads up, if you see some comments disabled or the comments disabled on this video, that is clearly why, and I'm sorry. I'm trying to work as best as I can in this current state of YouTube, but it's obviously quite limiting.